Hallo miteinander, I'm Gish86 and this is the Let's Play for Funtacular. For week 2, Dynamite Headdy for the Sega Genesis was chosen. So, I wasn't a Sega kid back in the day, but I've heard of this game before. Haven't played it before the competition though. It is not a well-known game, but for those who do know it, it's pretty renowned. So once again for week 2, we're allowed to play a good game. There was a poll about which game we would play. The Cap Attack and Kid Chameleon were the other choices. I'm kind of glad this one was chosen. From what I've seen, I'm not familiar with any of those games because, as I've said, I wasn't a Sega kid. But yeah, I'm glad this one was chosen because it's pretty fun. The key gameplay mechanic for this game is that Headdy can collect power-ups that will change his head and give him special powers. Against that creepy-looking doll, we used the warning, pun incoming, Warhead. Yeah. And right now we're using the Hammerhead. I think you can actually beat the doll mini-boss quicker with the Hammerhead, but I didn't know at that time. I just really like the Warhead. Not all heads are just for offense, like the vacuum head can also collect items that you can't reach otherwise. So this game is pretty tricky about that. Now, once again, we're not starting this game from scratch for the competition. We're supposed to play from World 4 on and get as far as we can in 15 minutes. So let's do just that. The big difference between this game and last week's Contra is that in World 4 of this game there is actually a bit of puzzly content, like defeating this tank. You can't attack it directly, you have to do what I just did. Also, I really hate this purple statue. See that thing there? It's so ugly, it's in the way, it just looks bad and stupid. Just want to destroy it, rip it into pieces. You heard that? There are quite a lot of Easter eggs in this game. Despite being a super linear platformer, you can do all kinds of weird things and unlock Easter eggs. Basically, those only give you points, but it's still very nice. It gives the game a lot of depth. Now, the story of this game is actually pretty standard. As Dynamite Headdy, we're trying to stop the evil Emperor Dark Demon from taking over the Puppet Kingdom. It's kind of like Blackthorn without guns. Now in this part of the stage is something special, a bonus game. Here we have to shoot some hoops in NYC. Good God, that sounded so white and nerdy. Yeah, you might be wondering, I'm on a 15-minute timer, but I have time to play this bonus game. Why? Actually, clearing this bonus game is part of the challenge. Only if we get 5 items will we get a secret number, and that will give us extra points for the competition. Only the baskets with the stars on them count. The ones with a basketball on them makes more balls pop up of the machines, and the ones with a 14 on them make the hoops go by slower. So those help, but don't ever try to get a ball into the 00 ones, because if you hit one of those, one of your machine pops, and if you hit another, the bonus game will end. And that sucks. Now, some of the contestants I've already seen do this bonus game. They're much more skilled at it than I am. It's kind of sad. I guess I'm doing somewhat okay. but those guys were really good at it. They like totally deserve to make a fortune from advertising Wheaties and Gatorade. That's how good they are. Now back to the actual stage. As I've said before, this part of the game is a little bit on the puzzly side. Often there are many ways to go around. And what I'm doing right here is I've used the tiny head to evade all that death and despair above us. You can also take the upper route, but why bother? I think this one is much quicker, even though there is very little down here. Speaking of things that are down somewhere, you can get an extra life on the lower right in this room. We've passed an extra life before, and I didn't get it because you know what's better than picking up extra lives? Not losing any in the first place. We're gonna do just that. Man, from the description that we were given for this game, I actually imagined this part even more puzzly. It really sounded much trickier than it was in the end for me. Maybe that's just because I'm used to very puzzly games like Nitroid, if you've ever heard of that one. Once again here we can use the warhead to our advantage. That lower route is also much quicker in my opinion than the upper one. And that pretty much concludes World 4. It ends with a pretty much empty room. Our friend here tells us that there was a boss here, but he's not around anymore. What has happened? I actually know that someone else took care of that boss. Who could that be? Anyway, after our score has accumulated, Headdy will show us a little trick. Nice. I wish I could detach my head like that. Imagine what you could do on Halloween. You could go trick-or-treating and people would swoon in fright from you. Then I would go on and steal all their candies. It would be amazing. Now, in World 5 we have to climb the puppet tower. Who we've just met is a very important character in this game. It is kind of a recurring comic relief villain. It is Trouble Bruin, aka Maruyama. He pretty much wants to take Headdy's role as the star of the game. And he's very persistent on that. He's most of the time a pretty easy mini-boss, and he appears so often in the game, it's really comical, as I've said. He's pretty much the Team Rocket of the game. You could also say he's a bit like Junior Trooper from Paper Mario. Really like that game, very good one. Very simple RPG. Anyway, we have to climb up this scrolling tower, and Maruyama is removing the pieces of it. It's like Lego, the Disaster Edition. One thing about pitfalls in this game, none of them are instant death, so this is a lot less menacing in practice than it looks like, I have to say. But they do hurt you. They fling you back up and hurt you quite a lot. Now, like many of the Maruyama fights in this game, this one isn't all that hard. The only tough part about it is that you can only hurt Maruyama when his eyes are closed, and when he does so, he tries to run into you. What you do against that is most of the time you're racing the tower upwards, but when he closes his eyes, you go to one of the lower levels. That's where you can hit him easily without risk. That's pretty much the gist of it. Not hard in execution. And he's also done. Now we'll go on to the inside of the tower. Now, this is one of those segments where I'd really say that this game just looks absolutely timeless. I mean, vivid colors, fast movements, nice effects. I really like 2.5D. Even if that is more 2D than 3D. This is just a game that you can always enjoy for its graphics, even if people say those don't make it the game. Right now we're fighting the Wrecking Balls, which is a pretty easy mini-boss in my opinion. He does a lot of damage if he hits you, or they do a lot of damage. But their pattern is really simple, I have to say. I never have a lot of trouble with it. I also got a secret bonus point for not getting hit at all during the fight. At first I thought it was for beating him quicker, but I think that's it. Not getting hit. Now this mini-boss is something else. I struggle with him. I struggle with him a lot. It is the Armadillo. I warned you about those puns, didn't I? Anyway, this boss is pretty tricky because your timing has to be really good. The only way to really hurt him a lot is with the Time Stopper head. But grabbing that one requires a lot of timing, because if the boss is on the ground while you take it, it doesn't do you any good. You have to be in a... he has to be in a spot where you can actually hit him. The other heads, the Fire Shield and the 3-way head, are not that useful. They really don't do that much damage. You know, for struggling with this boss, I did pretty okay for my standards in this run. So, that's something to be glad about. You know, we're actually almost at the end of this challenge. All we have to do is beat this boss at the end of World 5. Then we've reached our target point. Now this is Spinderella. You know, because this boss spins around and does stuff, and because she doesn't really have much to do with Cinderella, does she? Anyway, I don't find this boss exceptionally hard, but at this point I had a little bit of a blackout. I really lost my cool there and was doing absolutely terrible. I think I'm on my last hit. What Spinderella also does is she spins you right round, baby, right round. Like a record. All that does is that it kind of makes things harder to see and anticipate. Not too special if you're used to that. The battery, Spinderella's weak point, is a lot harder to hit in the background though. But yeah, at this point I pretty much regained my cool. Your own health is always on the top left, and the boss's health is always on the top right. And that's it, we've beaten Spinderella and kind of completed this week's challenge. If you grab enough of these key coins or whatever, you get an extra continue, which is equivalent to 3 lives and nothing else. So yeah, challenge completed. Now, just in a second we'll meet another character, a very charismatic character.
Yes.
Here, this is Heather. I think she's some kind of kleptomaniac. Not only does she steal our stuff, but also Heady's heart. At this point in the game you don't really know what she's about. Why does she steal your stuff? Is she good or bad? Who knows? You have to play it yourself to find out, because we're almost out of time. I can show a little bit more of World 6, which is actually a complete shooter stage. Nothing else in this one. You can actually tell that I'm not very experienced at it, because I grabbed the chicken head. The chicken head for this part is awful. What you really want to get is the biplane head, because that one not only has a good 3-way shot, but also can shoot to the left instead of only to the right. I really like shooter stages, especially Danmaku games. But at this point we're out of time. I'm Gish86. This was Dynamite Headdy. Bis bald!